was not an easy book to write, but although it's a small book, but it wasn't that easy to write because of what people might assume about myself, or saying things which might not be palatable to the sort of what might call the right-wing elements here. But I thought I had to write this. It was an important statement to make about the way India has been going in recent times, which has been very distressing, and painful, because it's a country that we love, our ancestry is here, and then see that it is putting barriers around people.
Hello and welcome to Bibliofile. We have with us M.G. Vassanji, noted novelist and author, who is out with this new book, Delhi Obsession. Mr. Vassanji, as we know, he's Kenyan born, Tanzanian bred, and settled down in Canada, and he's written most of his books from Canada. Thank you very much for joining Bibliofile.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you. But this is a completely Delhi book. It's it's so much about the city. It's so much about its history. The people, the characters are all from Delhi. So, what made you write a Delhi book at this point?
Well, in a way, it's not. It's a continuation, of my own journey, in the sense that it's by someone and about someone who comes here. So he comes here from the diaspora, if you call it. So it's in a sense a natural development. I can't keep writing about Africa because I don't live there. I go to visit there, but I can't keep writing about what's going on happening there now. I think for this book, I've been coming to Delhi for many years now, and gradually got to know it better and better. When you first initially come to a place, people sort of don't tell you everything, and I found out that you discover slowly the nuances. And I thought I had, and I also thought I was staying in a place like this. In fact, this one, I thought it would be nice to set a novel in such a place, observing the different kinds of people coming and going. But so Delhi is a city in India that I think I know well. But it's still written from someone from outside. I cannot presume to be an expert or to be a Delhiwala. That's not the point. But from the day I set foot in India, I noticed this kind of dichotomy or labeling of people, Hindu or Muslim, and that I was treated very warmly, and I was welcomed like a prodigal son, when I first came, and I was very moved. But this thing always bothered me, that you always have a label, Hindu or Muslim, and Christian didn't apply. And I never saw myself as labeled by anything. If I had a faith, then it would be very personal. So it kept bothering me, and then of course the current politics has highlighted that difference.
So over the years, you think that this labeling has only intensified?
I think it has intensified, and of course after the partition the gap has become deeper, or the wall has risen higher, and it has intensified due to politics, due to global politics, and it's used. So what I noticed was that even in the media, the Muslims are an object. They're an object of statistical analysis. The employment situation there, or the education level there, or anything. They're census figures. But no community, no religious group is uniform. You cannot just use a single label for I don't know how many millions of people. In the same way, I don't think the Hindus, the so-called majority, are a single majority. They're divided into so many factions. They were just artificially created into a majority, I believe.
Especially in a country like ours, where the regional influences, the culture of the regional spread, it's so dramatic, and so many times the religion is it's the secondary to the language and
I've
the
heard
food.
that when Punjabis meet outside of India or Pakistan,
Yeah.
then they're like buddies.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then suddenly across the border here, you have all this vitriol and rhetoric
Yeah.
spouted by the politicians and the bigots, and then sort of carried on without comment by the media, who like these labels,
Just briefly about the book itself. So this is broadly a romance between, say, two middle-aged people. Munir Khan, the man who's lost his wife recently, and between Mohini, who's a mother of two teenage daughters. So and she's married. So that is the setting, broadly speaking.
Yes.
So did you choose these characters, the names, their religion, their background, etc. I mean, to sort of portray the current situation in India?
just to highlight a little bit Munir Khan, so there's no doubt who he is.
Yes.
And Mohini Singh, again, no doubt, and the name Mohi, for example, from the word, a kind of illusion.
Yes.
So I think the perceptive reader would know that this is about an illusion of sorts. So there was that thought in it, but how it developed is just how a novel develops. You're never quite sure where it will go, but see, I could not write about a teenage romance, obviously. It had to be a mature romance, and I tried other ways because I realized that adultery is a very sensitive subject. Although, looking at some of the Indian shows that come on Netflix, you realize that I thought perhaps I was too sensitive. India has changed. I had no idea, what was what. I just thought this made sense. There was a double jeopardy in the sense of a married woman, and the sense, and also that she was from the Hindu faith.
Yeah.
And it just, for me, it worked, and it allowed me to develop many issues. One of the weight of recent history and tradition that we, especially in India, you bear, the partition.
Yes.
For example, I met people, I think most of my friends are either kids of refugees or themselves were brought here.
Yeah.
One of them had lost a family member, and my wife's family, in fact, had to escape overnight, So that thing, was very much on my mind, that what does the weight of that history do to a family and to a young middle-aged woman who is liberal but cannot get away from it.
Yes.
Because of family prejudices and wounds, we all carry wounds,
In fact, migration, the diaspora, the movement of people in the world. I mean, there have been these have been the recurring themes in your books, and right now it seems to be the most sort of controversial issues all over the world. How to manage people who move from places they cannot live anymore due to environmental reasons, due to terror reasons, So how is it in your time? Do you think it's like this whole thing is getting out of control?
You mean the movement?
Yeah.
I don't know how
this
you
is the
can-
major question in most countries in
Yeah.
Europe, and in Africa now, from there to in the United States, about Mexico and Puerto Ricans and others.
Well, I don't know how you can control it unless there is more equity in the world. As long as the world is unequal, people will move. It's almost like a law of physics, You move from along a gradient.
Yeah.
I know when I was a student and I suddenly realized that I came from a small country and there was a larger world, I remember telling myself, sooner or later, the poor of the world will start walking. They will just go. What can you do to them?
Yeah.
They need resources. There are resources here, in the West.
Yeah.
They need land. There is empty land, for example, in Canada. Vast area.
Yeah. They'll just. Yeah.
But of course, Canada welcomes immigrants.
Yes.
So I live in a country which is very receptive, tolerant. So we are fortunate there. But in other places, United States was a haven. Even now, most Indians I read yesterday prefer to go to the United States,
yeah.
even though if they may get killed or
Yeah.
So it's. I think it's natural. The world is unequal, becomes more unequal. What do you expect?
Canada has had this fine tradition of writing in English, both fiction and non-fiction. We have Nobel laureates, we have Booker winners. So how has that formed your? I mean, is it a big inspiration for writers in Canada to?
Not really. When we came, I came from the United States. In fact, I did my college education in the U.S. I came to Canada just because I got a fellowship, so I went there and then stayed because I liked Toronto. But it was not as peaceful as it is now or as welcoming. In the 1960s, the immigration laws were still racist. And in the 1980, when I moved in, there was racism. I have experienced it. So it's not something rhetorical flourish or political statement. I have experienced it. But over the years, since it's a small country and it depends on the influx of refugees, it has changed its own vision of itself. It was a British dominion, pink on the world map, and now it's an independent country, more and more independent. Although you can still feel the influence of Britain on Canada, as you can feel it here. I mean, in India,
Yeah.
There's very much. The colonial memory still remains. For someone who comes from the colonies, it's very obvious.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it has changed, and I think that it should change more, but it's inevitable. The area I moved into when we bought a house was almost all white. Both sons went to an all-white school, but we liked the area. It was close to downtown. Now there are so many young Indians and Chinese and moving into that area. Before they used to go to the suburbs where you could get big houses.
Yeah.
It's really changed in a very pleasant manner. We have a Hakka restaurant which is new now. We have roti.
Oh, Indian.
There's a new one in our area which has also very nice Italian restaurants and so on. So it's a mix that for most people is acceptable, even for what you might call the Anglophone people who were there before.
Yeah. And wanted to ask you another question about your generation of writers. At that time, there was a lot of excitement and there was a lot of hope. There were so many Indians writing in English at that time, both from India and abroad actually. Do you think over time, that has sort of been, has gone down, and it's they have not kind of, if I could say so, lived up to the expectations?
Well, there's always a euphoria, in the Western world. Media picks up on something or there's a trend, and then everyone jumps on it. So India was very much in vogue in the 90s and early 2000s.
Right.
The Indian books. Now other groups are in vogue in Canada. And they might not like me saying it, but that's what I've noticed. Because Indian books by new Indian writers are less likely to be reviewed than books by other groups.
Yeah.
But and also I, in my view, I don't know how accurate it is, but I happen to be very active in the literary activist scene, because we've really tried to promote a new writing in Canada by people from non-Western backgrounds. And I've noticed that you get less and less work from Indians, and Indians especially, people of Indian origin. There's a little more from Pakistanis. There's a lot more from Africans.
Yes. Yeah.
So it changes. But when my book came out, it was just opening up. So it was the Indian African sort of.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you very much, Mr. Vassanji. It was lovely, great talking to you. Thank you so much. And the book, it's quite it's a fast-paced, sort of. I mean, very, what shall I say? It's very effervescent, and it's very a lot of friction, and it's like very energetic book actually to both read, and I'm sure must have been to write.
It was not an easy book to write. But although it's a small book, but it wasn't that easy to write because of what people might assume about myself, or saying things which might not be palatable to the sort of what might call the right-wing elements here. But thought I had to write this. It was an important statement to make about the way India has been going in recent times, which has been very distressing, painful, because it's a country that we love, our ancestry is here,
Yeah.
and then see that it is putting barriers around people and rejecting some and not others, and the violence, it's just, it has been very distressing.
I'm sure there will be many readers, and it's thought provoking for them too. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you very much.